So, welcome to some anatomy, housewife style, very simple anatomy, just to feature the main organ systems and their function. And what I want to actually show is more the interconnectedness of all the systems within our body, because herbs, how they are made, they actually made to treat the body systemically, and it's very important to remember that nothing in our body functions separately from the other parts or systems. So I think a good place to start is the digestive system, and as we know, it starts with the mouth, it ends with the anus. And the food that we take is processed in many different ways until all the nutrients are ideally extracted and transported by blood into the cells of the body. And well, you can tell how the digestive system would ideally function if unobstructed. It functions really perfectly. So it's when we intake the food, we chew it about 30 times, it gets turned into this porridgey substance, and the digestive process starts with the alkaline saliva in our mouth, which starts breaking down the carbohydrates. So after we swallow the food, it goes down to the stomach, and there it's being processed by the way of kneading it and twisting and turning it in all sorts of ways, and mixing it with the digestive juices of stomach, which the main ingredients, the digestive ingredients, are produced by the healthy pancreas. Besides of that enzyme production, the pancreas also produces insulin. There it acts as an endocrine gland, and insulin will later help to make energy out of these nutrients that get absorbed through the intestinal walls. It will regulate the blood sugar so that the nutrients are transformed into energy that the body can use. So after the stomach, the food will go into it's called the intestine of 12 fingers. It's as long as 12 fingers.
The large intestine?
No, it's not here, the large intestine. There's a piece between the stomach and the small intestine, and I think it's called duodenum in English. I'll check it. And there it gets mixed with the bile, which is produced by liver and stored in the gallbladder. That's a very important part of the process. There, the food gets broken down further by bile, and basically the bile will work upon the fats and the proteins. And it's very important to have the bile there at the right amount at the right time, and there our food is ready to move into the small intestine, which is about 12 meters long, if I remember that correctly, and which is where the little intestinal walls, the fine intestinal walls, are covered with these little villi, if I remember the plural correctly. Like tiny little fingers which move like this, and they create a lot of surface for the food to be absorbed into the bloodstream, for the nutrients to be absorbed into the bloodstream. After that, the wastes move into the large intestine, where the water gets extracted, because in the process in the small intestine, where there's also the intestinal flora is present, which basically ferments all that we intake so that the nutrients can be properly extracted. From there, where it is like quite porridgey and somewhat slimy, it goes into the large intestine, the ascending large intestine, and then there is this horizontal part of the large intestine, and it goes down, where it goes into the sorry, I haven't looked up the English words. That part of intestine, rectum, yeah, and there it moves out through the anus. So in the large intestine, food gets dried up, like the water gets extracted, and comes this heavier substance, which is excreted as stool. And so between the stomach and duodenum, between the duodenum and the small intestine, and then further between the small intestine and the large intestine, and I believe also between the large intestine and rectum, if I'm not wrong, and of course there's a big muscle right at the anus. These are called sphincters, and there, if they open and close at the proper times, the food gets directed in one way and does not come back. The furtherly processed mass of food does not come back into the place it shouldn't. And also, all the all the digestive tract is equipped with these slow-moving muscles. All the walls of the intestines and also the stomach is basically one large muscle, one of the strongest muscles in the body, and the really strongest muscles in the body, in the whole body, are these chewing muscles here in the jaws, moving the jaws apart and close. So that's the ideal way how the food gets transported from the mouth to the anus, extracting all the nutrients on the way. For proper digestion, we do need the digestive enzymes produced in the pancreas. We do need bile. We do need all the muscles working in perfect order. We do need a lot of fluid, and the ideal amount of fluid to be intaken by a grown human is about 3.5 to 4 liters. I would say 4 liters in the tropical climates for a European size of a person. Caucasian size of a person. So what can go wrong? It's important to mention the main thing that can go wrong is that the nervous system, which is actually connecting the brain with all the inner organs, and there's all these elements of the nervous system and the ways how it functions. There's the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. You can probably actually every bodily function which goes on automatically, which is directed by the autonomous nervous system, it can only work properly in the parasympathetic mode. If your body is stressed, you cannot hope for good digestion because it's the nervous system that regulates the movement of those muscles within the digestive system, also closing and opening of the sphincters, production and release of the digestion fluids, the pancreatic enzymes, and bile. So nervous system function is the number one factor in proper food digestion. So number 2 factor is, besides water and fibers, besides the right intake of water and fibers, is the cleanness of the intestines. And if the intestines are, like the small intestine is all covered with this slimy substance from within, not allowing the villi to move and absorb the nutrients, that's a big problem. An even bigger problem is if the large intestine is completely blocked and sometimes covered with this kind of thick of a wall from within, made of all dried up waste, where the rest of the food can't even move out from the small intestine and move on into the outside of the body, through the anus. There's a big problem there. And another problem is the parasites, which can inhabit the large intestine in really great populations, creating extra waste for the body and taking in all the nutrients that the body was supposed to receive. And there can be even parasites in the small intestine, there can be parasites in the pancreas and in the liver. And it's actually very common to have parasites in these organs, which really brings the bodily function down by like 90% often. So these are the factors that really strongly influence the proper food absorption. So it's more often that we absorb poisons, the own toxins and the parasite created toxins through our intestines than we really absorb the food part. So these two things, then the lack of enzymes, of course. The lack of enzymes in the stomach, the lack of chloric acid. If these substances are not present in the stomach, the food cannot be digested there properly, and then it moves into the large intestines half digested. It moves into the small intestine and the large intestine half digested in the first place. Then a common problem is insufficiency of the spleen, which will slow down the whole digestive system. It's when we start having half digested, like close to the original form of intake foods in our stools. That's when we can know that our spleen is not functioning. And this problem often happens in the case we are having vegetarian or vegan diet, because we're lacking this element the Chinese call the digestive fire, which comes from young foods like red meats, like meat in general. And this problem I should mention here, although I'm not popular among people who are taking care of health, because everybody believes it's like the ideal nutrition if you can be vegetarian. I know that. But I've tried that for 16 years, I'm sorry, it's not the ideal type of nutrition, and definitely not for most of the people. Maybe there are certain people for who vegetarian diet is really fine, but not so for the most people. In fact, any diet that's radically different from the diet that our ancestors were using, it can give good results for about 2 years. Like cleaning up the body, making the senses subtler, rejuvenating, remaking the cells. Raw vegan diet based on juices and fruits definitely can do that for you within 2 years. After those 2 years, we come into the situation that our system starts becoming depleted. Like certain organ systems stop functioning properly, get out of balance, and it's very hard to bring it back into balance again. If somebody has been on insufficient vegan diet for more than 10 years, it's very often that they are dealing with big deficiencies in the body, which are very hard to reverse. Mm-hmm. It's important to know to take all diets with a great sense of responsibility and listening within your own body, what your body really wants and says and tries to convey. That is the way to actually fine-tune whether a diet is ideal for you at the time that you are using it. So that's about spleen. If you deplete the spleen with insufficient digestive fire, with foods that are too cold and too many of cold foods over long periods of time, then it's very possible that your digestion will get really impaired. Digestive function will get really impaired. And then, yes, weak pancreatic function, that's very common. It's very often connected with weak adrenal function, especially when it comes to the blood sugar balance. And it's said to decline with age, so maybe over 30, this effect already starts, that the pancreas starts excreting a lot less of the digestive enzymes. So it's important to take them in the way of supplementation or improve the whole function of the body, in this case especially the pancreatic function. And yes, about the bile. We're talking about lots of stresses in the life, and actually the lack of properly communicating our unresolved matters or difficulties with other people or opinions. So if we swallow all too much of that, which we cannot express, it starts turning into this quiet anger and frustration, which really blocks the liver, which makes the liver inflamed often. People who are angry often have this red face, this bad skin, these pimples in the face. In the teen years, when we have more emotions within than we can possibly express or process, it really affects the liver, which affects the skin quality. The reddish skin with pimples, the rough skin, that's an effect of congested liver, of like increased liver heat, how the Chinese medicine would put it. So when liver gets blocked and it cannot produce bile in the way it should, or the bile ducts get blocked within the liver, and then the gallbladder also gets blocked, that's where a big problem starts, because we cannot have the bile that we need for the digestion. Furthermore, our body constantly produces cells which are a little bit abnormal, anomalic, how do you call that? And they could turn into cancer cells or tumor, or they produce as cancer cells in the beginning, right? But when we have enough bile in our body, one of the functions of the bile is to destroy these cells, so the body itself cleans up itself from the wrong cells. Why these cancer cells are being produced in the body, it must be a sense there behind it. I just haven't studied in depth. But the fact is that every single healthy body does produce these cells. It's the matter of how the body itself can clean itself up from these cells when they produce in excessive amounts. So that's the bile. It's the bile function. So it's very important to have clean and well-functioning liver. And clean intestines, with well-functioning intestinal walls capable of absorbing the nutrients, and of course the proper nutrients that we would intake, and remember to chew 30 times until the food turns into this porridgey substance. That's about it. That's connected to the digestion. I think I've covered healthy digestion and some of the main problems. And to bring the digestive system to optimal function, wherever we are at on our journeys, would be first make sure that we chew the food and drink enough water. Secondly, we've got to have the digestive fire going. So either we have a little bit of meat every once in a while, especially for our body not to forget to produce this stomach acid, this caloric acid, hydrochloric acid, right? And we're probably already low in digestive enzymes, so let's have fresh juices, like a glass. Don't drink it too much. I mean, if you drink too much of like cold juice, it will wash out if you drink too much of it at the same time, it will just go straight through the stomach and wash out the digestive liquids there and cool it down. So take a glass before your meal, And same with water, take a glass at a time. You don't have to drink a half liter at a time, that's too much. That creates the flushing effect instead of absorbing effect. So have some green juices, have some juices, vegetable juices that are pressed like no longer than 15 minutes before you drink them, preferably cold pressed. You can use a lot of herbs like parsley and dill and cilantro, peppermint. They'll bring a lot of digestive enzymes, and they'll also stimulate your stomach in a very good manner. It's good to have a tiny little bit of chili and garlic for the sake of the food to become more young, to have more digestive fire. A little bit of meat, good quality meat. If you have red meat, try to not have it overcooked. That's important, the same with liver. Just choose very good quality meat, organic, and don't overcook it before you eat it. And have a little fish at times. I'm really not talking that you would have to have this 200-gram steak, Texas steak, every meal. That's not the case. Just keep it in balance. Also remember to have a lot of vegetables going along with that steak to keep the pH in balance, the acidity, alkalinity aspect of your food. So have a lot of fibers. What comes next? But I was talking now about the digestive enzymes, right? Yes, then we talk about the fibers. It's good to have a little salad. It's good to have veggies. It's good to take the wholesome grains like the red rice or the brown rice instead of white rice, and to have we have like wheat or sprouts, also have whole foods, don't have it too refined. Some salads, not only salads that will cool down your system too much again, everything's got to be in balance. Oatmeal in the mornings, yes. When we talk about birchen muesli, or how do you call it, cereal, maybe it's better to have the grains processed, not raw. Also for the cereal, you can have the grains which are roasted. And remember, you have to chew it, otherwise it won't have much sense to intake it. Root veggies, definitely. Have a bit of everything and have it balanced. That's the main thing. About fats, good fats are very important for your system. Good fats actually rebuild the nervous system, and they're also used as nutrient for the brain. Of course, brain consists of nerve cells, and there's more functions to the good fats in your body. Talking about egg yolk and avocado and cold pressed oils like sunflower oil, flaxseed oil, pumpkin seed oil, olive oil, of course, cold pressed. And don't have lots of them, and don't heat them up too much. Coconut oil is great. Coconut oil actually does not put a load on liver. It consists of these short-chain fatty acids, which has a totally different way of being absorbed and processed by the body. Balanced food, that's what I mean by this whole thing. And yeah, you can also work on fixing the organs which are no more in order right now. And so let me put out a few, or maybe which order we go. So here we go. All these herbs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all these 9 formulas will help you with your digestion. You figure out what you need and put it together. It's no shame to put it together as a program and go for 2-3 months, depending on your need. So here is what can help you with the digestive system. First of all is calm. Only nervous system, which is in good functioning order, can provide good digestion, or support good digestion. And of course, just popping those capsules may not be enough. Just like everything, you got to do a bit of homework. You have to find those times in the day to bring your system into the parasympathetic functioning mode, so you can relax, so that every bodily function can go optimally, but you can regenerate itself, deeply rest, and digest the food for that matter. So we have Digest Aid, which improves the secretion of the hydrochloric acid and the enzymes, the digestive enzymes. It works on the stomach level. And if you know that your digestion is really not functioning so well, if you get this bulging and bloating and the food would sit in the stomach and not move, and you get these burps and all that, and you just take this Digest Aid, a couple of caps before the meal, for each meal. 2 caps before a lighter meal and 3 caps before a larger meal. Take it with a cup of water and wait for 10 minutes and then have your meal. You'll see good results. You can also sometimes have a few after your meal, which is a bit less effective but still helpful. And in the long run, it will also improve your pancreatic and stomach function. So then we have the pancreas health. Remember the fact that you may have parasites in your pancreas. So you may want to combine it with an anti-parasite to bring the pancreas to good working order in those 2 terms of insulin production for the blood sugar levels and the digestive function. And then of course, let's start with the liver again here. For the bile production, for the digestion of fats and proteins. So we have this liver and blood health, which helps the liver with a detox function. That's why we put it in the orange colored pack. It's a detox formula as such, but it's also one which improves the liver function, heals the liver, and gently moves out the blockages in the form of like soft stones that usually block the bile ducts in the liver. So we have a formula, stone dissolver, which works against the liver inflammation, there is liver heat, and it dissolves the stones in liver and in gallbladder, and by the way, in the kidneys as well. So you can use this instead of the liver and blood health. And again, you may need to combine it with an anti-parasite in case your liver is full of parasites, which is very often the case. And then we come to the intestine. For people who cannot go to the toilet really for days, and I've heard of situations where even young people cannot go to the toilet for like a week in a row. Even if you cannot go to the toilet more than once, like more than 1 day at a time, you may want to use this to get the process moving, and then once your digestion gets moving, do a good colon cleanse. Colon cleanse will go for 2 to 3 cycles of 4 weeks. And you'll have to remember to take the amount of capsules that you really need. Take them with meals. Because if you take too little, you won't have the effect of going to the toilet 2 or 3 times a day and moving out like large volumes out of your large intestine. And if you take too much, you'll have the diarrhea effect, which you also want to avoid, because diarrhea, all that it does is to deplete your body of the already scarce nutrients. So, and then we can move to the small intestines after the large intestine is clean, after the colon is clean and functioning. We can move out the slimy substance out of the small intestine. This formula is special. You don't take it together with other herbs. The same day is fine, but the same time is not. You take it only with pure water between the meals, and it will absorb, it will neutralize the toxins, the toxicity in your small intestine. It will also virtually pull out the toxicity out of the intestinal walls and villi, and that's important. It's actually the effect of the bentonite clay. If you have had a bentonite clay bath till now, it pulls the toxicity out of the skin, turning it into the slimy substance. So that's the same that it does inside your intestines, and it also has the activated charcoal. So take it with only water between the meals, and you'll see amazing amounts of slimy substance being moved out of your small intestines. Go for a course of 4 weeks after you've finished with the colon cleanse. You'll see good results, and that's the one formula which will heal your 12 meters of length of intestinal walls in the small intestine, and make the small intestine capable of food absorption, which is where you really get the nutrients that you take in your precious food. So I would say that's about it, about the digestive system. And I'm ready for questions on the digestive system, if we have any.
How do you know if you have parasites?
How do you know if you have parasites? A good indicator is sugar cravings, and you crave the junk foods, yeah, very often. But if all you want to eat is sweets and cakes and soft bread, it's definitely the parasites calling, because a healthy body does not crave for these things regularly. Then pale skin, yellowish skin, often is a sign of parasites. And definitely bloating, especially bloating after taking sweet foods. That's often about the parasites. It could also be candida, and oftentimes they share the intestine together. Candida overgrowth, trying to take care of the undigested starches in the intestines. Tiredness, fatigue. For the children, grinding of teeth, something like that in the nighttime. Mainly that, and you can be sure you have parasites. You can get them anywhere. You don't have to be in Asia to get parasites. Most people in Russia and Germany and even the Alps and even the cities, they do have parasites. The matter is, if you have little, if your body, if the immune function can still keep them down and control, that's fine. But if they really get totally out of proportion, and they start inhabiting your liver in full, and then the pancreas, and of course the intestines, producing like tons of waste, which your elimination system cannot get rid of, that's a bad thing. You need to treat them really. You need to get them out of the system.
So you would take the anti-parasite?
You would take anti-parasite, but you need to remember one thing, that it's created for this anti-diarrhea effect. So what I actually suggest is to take, if it's only for the parasite cleanse, you take 1 capsule of anti-parasite. For each one of those capsules, you take 1 capsule of colon cleanse. Then you won't get your stool affected. And if you can do that like intensely, say like 3 and 3 in the morning and 3 and 3 at night time, for a month, you can be definitely parasite free. And we're already working on a new formula which would be like very intensive parasite cleanse, just only for parasites. That's to be out in the daylight, maybe within 2 or 3 months from now. Yeah, anything else about the digestive system so far?
You mentioned something about this spleen. Is there one of the herbs that you would recommend for that?
We haven't gone so specific. Well, actually, the pancreatic herb does have a bit of herbs, which also helpful with the spleen. The spleen is not as easily addressed. One thing is really that the young aspect of the food, the fire in the food, like the thing that you get from the red meats, like diminishing the raw foods that you intake, especially from salads. Juices are processed much easier, and having some ginger, some garlic, some warming herbs, a bit of chili, gentle chili in your food, that's important. Avoid dry and cold foods for the spleen. And acupuncture is a thing that works really well in increasing the spleen function.
I think that's it.
All right, thank you.